this is our second lesson of this week, and we are coming back to the world of finance. Okay, now what we're doing here, we're still working with the same formulas, but the difficulties are we have changing interest. Okay, so, and that's very realistic. Okay, you'll take, let's say, you take a mortgage, you buy a house, you take a loan, and they'll tell you, look, you're gonna take a loan now. The loans you take could be 20, 25, could be even 30 years loan. It takes you to pay that money back. And they can't tell you, look, the interest is going to be 7%. It doesn't work like that. You take the loan for, let's say, 30 years, and then tell you, okay, for the first 5 years, you can fix it to, let's say, in this country, probably about 7%. Okay? What happens after that 5 years? Well, it depends on the economic situation. The interest rate fluctuates all the time. So that's just more realistic, and that's what's scary about buying a house. You don't know what's going to be the interest rate like in a few years' time. So for this specific case, we, by the way, exercise 6 in page 217. This guy took a loan of 8,000 Rand, or is it a saving? I can't even remember. No, it's a saving. Okay, so you put 8,000 Rand, okay, and he put it in the bank for 8 years, okay, and the first 3 years are in 3%, and after that, the rest 4%. So you need to figure out that the rest is 5 years. One of the difficult things in finance problem is that it's like what, in the prep used to be word sums. Okay? Remember word sums from the prep? It's, you need to figure out, the questions will be long, like 5 sentences, and you have to figure out what am I doing here mathematically. It's not like algebra. So that's one of the hardship in finance, I know. So, the questions is not difficult, don't worry about it, it's not a big step, but what we're going to learn now is a very important tool that will help us in finance in grade 11 and in matric, and it's really important you get it now, okay? You don't actually have to use it now, okay? But you have to, I say you have to, okay? Does that make sense? It's more important that you learn this tool, okay, than actually answer the question, if that makes sense. The tool will be essential for next year. So the tool is called the timeline. And really, from now on, you have to, if you have a changing interest, if it's not a simple question like we've done so far, you have to draw the timeline, okay? So timeline, okay, we've got 8 years. So you draw this line, okay, and every year you put T1, T2, T I guess stands for term, because it could be months or days or week, whatever. So you draw that, okay, 8 years. Now you need to put some information. So we're starting with 8,000 Rand. So we're going to write 8,000 Rand here on T0. That's the money we save. Now we've got 3% for 3 years. So the first 3 years, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. Okay, so I'm going to put like that. Okay, I'm going to show that for the first 3 years, okay, I'm going to work with 3% interest. Okay, now how do we work? I mean, if R is equal 3%, remember I is R over 100. Okay, so 3%, we really work with I here, not with R, like we did with population growth. So the I is going to be 0,03. So I would really recommend you write down the figures, the amount that you have at the top, and the interest at the bottom. Just put them in separate sides. Doesn't matter if you do that at the top and this at the bottom, but just don't write it the same, otherwise it crowds it. Okay? Again, like I said, this timeline, the questions are easy in grade 10. They will get much more difficult in grade 11. So it's important that you learn how to use this timeline. Then, for the rest 5 years, okay, I don't know how much money you've got here. That increases again, but now the percentage or the interest is 0,04. 4% is 0,04. Now when I look at that, I can just mathematically solve it. Okay, I turned the word sum, which is in the question, by using a diagram, I can easily turn it now to an equation. Now again, there's like 2 ways. I'll show you 2 ways of doing it, and the one that I will really recommend you to. So the first one is to say, okay, I need to find out how much money I've got here. So let me first of all find how much money I've got after 3 years, working with 3% interest, and then I'll take that as your new P, your new initial amount, and grow it in 4% for another 5 years. So I've got basically two questions. How much money I've got after 3 years with 3%? And then that will be my new initial amount, my new P, and I grow it for 4% for another 5 years. So let's do that. So it's going to be, okay, A here is going to be equal to 8,000, that's the initial amount, times 1 plus 0.03 power 3. Okay? So let's find out how much that is. Oh, actually, I've got it written here, so I don't need the calculator, a bit of a cheat. And that's equal 8,741,816. So the book wrote in 3 decimal places, because remember, I'm kind of rounding up now, so I might as well just give a few more decimal places so I won't make an error. So now I know after 3 years I have 8,741, and because I don't want to round it up, I'm going to write as many decimal places as I can. At least more than 3 or more, because normally the answer at the end should be in 2, so if I go one more extra halfway through, hopefully I won't mess that up. Okay? So now I want to find out how much money I've got here. Okay, that's not a problem. That's a new problem. Okay? I want to find out how much money I've got after another 5 years. Okay, my initial amount now is just that. So the A that I calculated in the beginning, the final amount here, is now the initial amount. Okay? So it's 8,741,816. That's the initial amount. 1 plus, now the interest rate is 0.04. And the number of years is 5. And again, I'm going to do a bit of a cheat and just find out how much they got there. And they got 10,635. And now they round up 2 decimal places, because I don't need more than 2 decimal places. Definitely when I'm talking about money, because I'll have 0.1 cent. Okay, so that's the answer. 10,635. Okay, that's the first way that I'd like you to do it, and I think that's kind of more common sense to you. But I want to show you how to do it a little bit better. Okay, so I'll just pause that and erase this. Okay, so why do we actually need to do it a different way? Well, the first way, we found out that middle number, 8,000. How much money I got after 3 years? Now, first of all, nobody asked me to find that, so I'm not really interested. Why would I want to find that? All I'm interested really is the number at the end. So I don't really need to do it. Secondly, I had to round up here. And that's potential you're adding errors to your calculation. It's not as clean. It could have a little bit of an error. So I'll show you the other way of doing it, which you might not like it, but it will be essential to be able to do it eventually for next year. So what I'm saying here is, look, I want to know how much money I've got here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to grow that 8,000 over 3 years in 3%, get a certain sum. I'm not going to even calculate it. Straight away, I'm going to grow it for another 5 years with 4%. Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to first of all grow it for 3 years. So I'm going to take 8,000, and how do I grow it in 3% for 3 years? I'm multiplying it by 1 plus 0.03 power 3, just like I did before. But instead of finding out what that number is whatever. I know it's 8,000 something, it doesn't matter. I'm going to grow it for another 5 years. How do I grow it for another 5 years? Well, now this is my new P. As I told you before, that is the new P. The new P here. I don't need to know what it is. All I need to grow it. How do I grow it for another 5 years? I'm multiplying it by 1 plus 0.04, because that's a new interest, over 5 years. Can you see that? Okay, I'm just going to pause here for a second. Okay, so what I've done, I've written underneath what I raised before, how we calculated in the first method. So the first method, I calculate how much money we had after 3 years, which is 8,700. And then after 5 years, after another extra 5 years, after 8 years, I took that number and timed it by 1 plus 0.04 power 8. I grew it for another 5 years and 4%. And I got 10,000 something. So all I did now is I'm doing the same thing, but instead of first of all calculating how much it is and then timing it by 1 plus 0.054 power 5, I'm just multiplying it by this without finding what number. Okay? What am I achieving again? First of all, I'm not rounding up as I rounded up here. Okay? I have less chance, that's the first thing. Secondly, I have less chance of mistake. Every time I've pressed equal, I might have made an error. And third, the most important thing, it's more clean. It's like I said to you, it's more cool, like a matador. Ole! Okay, we gotta be cool. We gotta be precise. Okay? Don't get stuck up with these numbers. You're growing this for 3 years, grow it for another 5 years. Don't find that middle term. Okay? It will be really important, guys, when we're gonna have lots of interest change and compounding and different. It gets complicated. Trust me. Okay? Right. That's the first question. Let's do another question. I'll do another video for it.